How you doing? My name is Carlos Ramirez, owner of NVS Audio in Roselle, New Jersey. Welcome to Tool Time Tuesday. Today I want to talk about these little guys. They're power wire adapters that allow you to run larger gauge wire into smaller gauge holes. These things have been around for years, for over a decade. A lot of the SPL competitors use them. So it was really never a need for a regular person in a regular car to ever need these in their build. I was helping a friend out that owns a local shop down the street, and when I went and looked over the install, I realized that he was trying to run a 3,000 watt amplifier with undersized wire. And then the problem with doing that is the wire gauge that the amplifier calls for is already undersized if you follow all Ohm's law and the laws of current and simple math. If you're running 1,000 watts RMS, you're generally going to draw about 70 amps worth of current. This is the amplifier he's running. It's the new Nano 3000 from Sound Digital. Now the problem is, if you read the owner's manual for the amplifier, it actually tells you that you should run 2 gauge wire. It says right there 2 gauge, because the amplifier draws 150 amps of current on music and over 300 amps of current if you're running test tones. Well, the problem with that is they tell you to run 2 gauge, but the amplifier opening is only 4 gauge. It's a 4 gauge terminal. You're not fitting 2 gauge in there. So you would have to run an adapter like this. So it's a 4 gauge opening. The tip of the adapter is 4 gauge. So it allows you to run a double 4 gauge, a single 0, or a double 0. Now, this has become a problem because when I first started doing car audio, you're paying $2 to $1 per watt. Biggest amplifier you can get your hands on in the 90s is maybe Rockford Punch 200, which did 400 watts RMS bridged. So wasn't drawing this kind of current. Now the problem is wattage has become so cheap that this amplifier only retails for $499. So you're getting 3,000 watts RMS. We did the calculation, you're talking under 20 cents per watt, 16 cents per watt. 3,000 watt RMS amplifier, $500. Now the amplifier is so small they couldn't put larger connectors on the board because it would increase the footprint of the amplifier. So it makes it mandatory that you do this, or you're not going to give the amplifier the current that it needs. So just on music, the amplifier by itself draws 150 amps of current. So 150 amps of current is usually bigger than the stock alternator on most cars. And for a 150 amp alternator, it requires a 150 amp hour battery. So the battery comes in most vehicles, not 150 amp hours. So if you're running this kind of power, supplemental battery in the back, alternator upgrade, and mandatory oversized cables. Just for a quick comparison, this is a Phoenix Gold Elite 1. Just over 3,000 watts RMS, rated conservatively. But since the amplifier is so large, they already set it up to accept 0 gauge. Goes right in, no problem. Makes sense. But this amp is a lot bigger and a lot more expensive. This amp is over $2,000 retail. It's a different, you can't compare the two amplifiers. The technology is completely different. The way they make the output is completely different. The power supply is completely different. You cannot compare the two. If you can't fit it, you can't use it. And there aren't too many installs where this amp fits. We're not even going to get into the quality and the output and I prefer Class A/B amplifiers, but that's a conversation for a different day. Class D amplifiers are a lot smaller, and you have, like in motorcycles, you have no choice. You're not fitting this in a motorcycle. You can easily fit this in a motorcycle, so it's a no-brainer. But if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. This one's machined out of aluminum. Aluminum's not that great of a conductor, but since you're running giant oversized cables, the loss that you get from the material is not much. We've had these custom built by tool makers. They can machine them out of brass, out of copper. I'll put the link in the video below. There's a couple of companies offering them. The material is not as important as getting the right amount of current into the amplifier. The way these terminals come is they come keyed, so once you tighten them down, They cannot rotate and touch each other. So you see how I've entered it into the amplifier. Now we can go ahead and put our 0 gauge. Now that one's ready to go. We're going to pull that one out. And connect our double 4 gauge. Double 4 gauge. It's that easy to run the correct amount of current into your amplifier. If you don't do this, you're going to have problems with your electrical system, alternator, or you're going to destroy the amplifier. It's just a little note. Please read the paperwork that comes with the amplifier. It'll tell you what your amplifier needs. You spent a ton of money on your audio system. These are very inexpensive and doesn't cost a lot of money to do it right. You'll be a lot happier. Your electrical system in your car will be a lot happier, and you're going to get a lot more output. It takes power to make power, so whatever you give into the amplifier is what it's going to give you on the output side. Please use quality cables. We prefer Stinger power wire, Rockford power wire, Audison power wire, the Audison connection. Wires, brand wire is really good. So use a quality cable. Please no copper clad aluminum. Pick some of these up if you're running these amplifiers and read your manual. Thank you. Hope this helps. I'll see you next week.